call.
Russ Arkan, Dan Ruck,
Here.
Jeremy Hall will be here in about 3 minutes. Jay Luke
Here.
and Keith Karpinski.
Here.
So far there are 4 members here.
Make a motion for the agenda.
Second. Any discussion on the agenda? Not all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Jeremy.
How about our minutes from our June 11th meeting?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Are there any public comments? Are there any supervisors attending this meeting not seated as committee members that have any information? All right, we got some outside agency presentations. What are we thinking? How long do you need for them? 15 minutes?
10 to 15.
All right, we'll have the Polk County Historical Society.
First of all, I'm going to spend maybe a whole minute of this handing out these. So these are, it's a centennial official director. So it's kind of really fun information about this is as of 1953. So please keep that in mind. Lots of things have changed, but it's like really fun information about what was happening in Polk County, notable events, notable people. I think there's even sheriff information, things like that in there. So it's just kind of old fun information that's currently sitting in my gift shop that apparently nobody else that finds interesting and nobody else wants to purchase. So I thought, what a great thing to do to give them to all of you guys. And my feelings will not be hurt if I walk out by that little free library out there and find a bunch of them in there later. So anyway, the Polk County annual report here. So just a slide overview, just brief things that I'm going to go over. Just again, our mission, structure, function. Fundraising from last year, fundraising from this year. I realize apparently, yeah, no, that makes sense. For some reason, I thought I was in 2026 for a second here. Not yet. Strategic plan implementation, what we've been doing, it kind of overlies with strategic plan, but I have fun pictures in that. And then my director responsibilities, and then just kind of an overview of what we're asking for the next year. Okay. Very briefly, a lot of this is kind of information that you guys have already seen from the packet of information, but just our mission statement is just to preserve the past for future generations by collecting a unique and enduring collection of Polk County history and shared with the public through programs, exhibits, and research. So as a nonprofit, we are a 7-member board of directors, museum director, and then a membership. And we manage, along with our small but very mighty group of volunteers, the Polk County Museum, which is that 3-story courthouse down the way that anybody is welcome to visit, along with the schoolhouse that is actually just right in Balsam Lake. Our main function, obviously, is to collect and preserve the artifacts pertinent to local culture, but also to share it. We're not just going to be able to sit and record everything and let anybody see it. The big thing with that is that admission is free to the public because, again, we want people to come visit. We want people to learn about Polk County's history. So with that admission being free, it encourages more people to come in and visit. So fundraising, very briefly, our monetary donations from last year, but especially the item donation valuation, that's always hard to approximate, right? Because a lot of this stuff is old. So I did my best with what we received last year. Over the last few years, we've been slowly kind of limiting what we accept because in the past, we've basically had people dump things on our doorstep. We've also had people donate, 5 of the same thing, as you'll notice from all of these copies of this very exact same booklet. So we're trying to limit it and we're trying to really keep it to Polk County's history. I think a long time ago when the museum started back in the 70s, and they said we need to fill up the courthouse. So people filled up the courthouse, which became problem because a lot of it wasn't Polk County's history. Grants received from last year, memberships, program income and gift shop sales. Again, the program income, because most of that stuff we want to offer it as, as low cost or as free to the public as possible because we want people to actually learn about it. Those things tend to be a little bit lower, so we rely a lot more heavily on grants, donations, and gifts and things like that. Current fundraising from this year. There we go. Much lower in value donations of items this year, thankfully, for me especially. It's less for me to have to try and manage and find spots for. The grants received, you'll notice, is an increase, and that is partially because we received a $20,000 grant from the Hugh J. Anderson Foundation to assist with the county's tuck pointing project. So the county is actually working to fix a bunch of the bricks on the outside of the building, so the whole building doesn't collapse on me. And so we were able to raise $20,000 from the Anderson Foundation to actually put towards that, which my understanding, it's about the total cost of it. So hooray. We also applied for grants, especially regarding the outside of the building. We have a nice garden over there, but nobody visits it. So we recently applied for funding to create an interpretive kind of native plant garden out there. So that includes signage and including an environmental focus to get people actually outside and around the building as well. Fundraisers, so our Freedom Fest fundraiser was just this last weekend. We raised just about enough to cover our $1,000 annual scholarship to Polk County seniors. I think the rain kind of hit us hard, and it hit a lot of other people hard too, because nobody wanted to go anywhere, or they just stayed inside. But our big fundraiser coming up, and I think Fran Duncanson, who is on our board, she's talked to you guys about this a little bit, is the Bootleggers Ball. So that is coming up on August 29th. It's going to be a huge event. We have live music, we'll have drinks, and we'll have, most importantly, a jail and bail. So if anybody wants somebody that they know to get arrested and have a warrant served, fake warrant, please, pay me $20 and I will have somebody come arrest your friends. And then they will have to raise money to bail themselves out of our jail cell downstairs. And then, of course, they can stay for, for more fun, but they have to be punished somehow, right? Social media comparisons, just 2024, we had about 17,400 people just reached by our posts. It's hard to tell necessarily who interacted with them directly. But so far this year, we've had a little over 10,000 people with 47,000 views. So whether or not people actually did anything with it, they at least saw something that we posted. And our current Facebook followers are 513. So if anybody remembers, a couple years ago, Facebook just arbitrarily booted us from our account. So we couldn't get back in. So we had to start over from scratch at the end of 2023. So we're slowly working our way back up to, I think we had about 1,000 followers beforehand. So we're working our way back up. And this way, at least we know it's people that follow us and are actively involved currently with what we're doing. Strategic plan implementation. A lot of this stuff is very similar from last year because it's ongoing, right? So communication processes, internship guidelines were new this year because we now have an intern. Yearly review and updates to our volunteer handbook as well. So financial, our annual fundraisers over the last few years, largely due to staff turnover, but also due to COVID, have been so last year we attempted a very small one, about broke even, so it didn't really do much. But again, like I mentioned, the Bootleggers Ball is our fundraiser planned for this year, and we have very high hopes for it. Apparently, a lot of people feel like they want to arrest their friends, so we're really hoping that's going to be a good turnout. The other financial one that I really want to point out is the Joanne Hallquist Trust that we received at the end of last year and early this year. So basically, she created a trust. We will never be able to receive the actual, all-encompassing funds from that, but we will receive interest every year. But the caveat to that is that it has to go towards our archives preservation. So we can't use it for any other operational functions, just for the archives. She's very focused on the archives. But that has allowed us to use the interest from this year to actually hire an intern. So that person is focused just on archives digitization. So that'll be a kind of our big focus this year. Collections, our new collections plan that was created, which has allowed me to refuse some donations that people try to donate, like the Minnesota Waters book. Past perfect data entry. So again, we have a lot of stuff in that 3-story building and in that schoolhouse. So we need to make sure we have an idea of where everything is and what it is and all of that. So that's a very large undertaking. So you'll see that 10% has been entered as of, this year. So 2 years to get me to 10%. I swear I'll pick up the pace eventually, but there's a lot of stuff in there. And again, updated storage boxes and things like that, just to make sure that the stuff that we do have is actually going to last a long time and isn't just going to disintegrate in a cardboard box. Yeah, education. So we've developed a really strong partnership with our local libraries throughout the county. We've also increased school and group tours partially just because we're open more often. But I think that also gets people involved in terms of, they see us and they walk by and then they contact us later. We also put an educator's brochure on our website to actually really advertise what we can do and what we can help with schools. We also created education boxes that schools can check out and learn specifically about Polk County's history that align with Wisconsin standards. Our exhibits, we're continuing to update them, to clean them. It's been a long time project, and to create rotating exhibits to encourage visitors to actually come back. I created a new Balsam Lake room exhibit. So actually you get an overlook of the lake. I'm going to say very barely because you got treetops, but still you can see kind of the lake. But that involves oral history interviews from people who have been longtime visitors or longtime residents of Balsam Lake. So it gets them to kind of tell their stories. And P.S., if anybody in this room is a longtime resident or visitor to Balsam Lake, hit me up. I'd love to interview you. We continue to add more touch points for people to actually interact with. The big hit downstairs is that I changed out the ribbon in a typewriter. I didn't know how to do that before, but I figured it out. So now kids get to sit and clickety clack on the typewriter downstairs. And we also replaced some of the tile and things like that that were slowly starting to kind of fall apart. And public engagement, we continue to work with the Chamber of Commerce. They're kind of our biggest supporter in terms of marketing our events and sharing our events, and we do, and vice versa. We do have year-round hours now, Wednesdays through Fridays, noon to 4, and then Saturdays in the summer. Obviously, I'm the full-time director. I was hired in April of 2023. We did hire somebody part-time in October of 23 because as I started to go out into the community more, I realized, well, I can't keep the museum open and also be, at this meeting or this presentation or this event. So this person will cover shifts when I'm not available, or if, heaven forbid, I take a very short vacation. We also, like I said, we hired an intern this summer. So this funding is strictly from this Hallquist Trust and can only be used for the archive. So as much as I want to put him to work somewhere else in the building, I can't. We did receive the grant to assist the county's tuck pointing project, and we're also looking into grants to assist the county with a window replacement project. So fingers crossed that'll work out. And technology, our social media postings are almost daily. And we also have a website blog that we post about Polk County's history or anything. That's largely the fun part of that is that I get to decide. So anything that I find interesting, I get to blog about. So a little bit more about what we've been doing with pictures. So I have about 8 library story times scheduled or already completed this year. That's 2 more than last year, and we expect to either maintain it or increase it in 2026. Public presentations, that includes visits where I actually go visit community organizations. So I visited a couple senior centers, Endeavors, daycare, and various libraries for special programming. We've also completed and or scheduled about 5 this year and hope to increase that in the next year. Speaker series presentations when speakers are available. So also, if anybody wants to talk about some area of history and you know about it, hit me up. I'll have you as a speaker. Our archives digitization began last month. I have partnered with Recollection Wisconsin. So they host a lot of other organizations and their digitized materials, and they do a really great job with it. So it's free for us. Recollection Wisconsin basically just sets it up and I upload everything once it's digitized. So that'll actually allow more people to learn about Polk County's history who aren't from here. And it'll free up a little bit more of my time and my researchers' time. So we're not constantly answering very simple questions like when was Alden Township founded? Things like that. We had three increased school tour visits this year, including summer school tours, which was really fun. Root beer floats continue every year for our $1,000 Polk County scholarship that we offer to high school seniors. Our rotating exhibits right now are a moonshine sill. So again, hooray for Bootleggers Ball. That'll be front and center. And I have a rotating exhibit on what's in a rural doctor's bag, given that I had about 5 of them. And we continue to answer research inquiries for visitors and for the Chamber of Commerce and for the county. More on that on the next slide. So again, we mentioned we as much as we appreciate the county's assistance, we also work to find funding as well. So like this tuck pointing project, we understand that, you know, a $20,000 tuck pointing project doesn't just come out of nowhere. And so we try our best to find, if it's not the full amount, we try to at least find funding to cover half of it. So we're really excited we were able to actually cover this one. But we were also asked to complete a poster presentation to display in or near Clam Falls, since Polk County and Lunda Construction and the Army Corps of Engineers were kind of working to restore the Clam Falls Dam. So that was actually a really fun project. So if there are any, as a side note, I am a former archaeologist. So if there are any former or current sites that anybody's doing work on that you need help kind of researching or going out and observing or anything like that, let me know. I was also asked by the Parks and Trails Supervisor, Tony, to research information on the Woodley Dam property for potential renaming. And we actually did get it to, we recommended our name change, and we were excited to know that it got changed. Our interior improvements include flooring downstairs. It was a disaster down there. So it looks a lot better now. As well as our window coverings. So at least, you know, if we replace the windows, oh, well, there goes the window coverings, but still at least they protected our collections, and at least we got some light into that building. I am a member of the following groups and organizations, and it sounds like a lot. That's because it is. The Northwest Wisconsin Museum Consortium, the Northern Wisconsin Heritage Council, I'm their treasurer, the Wisconsin Council for Local History, and the Wisconsin Library Services. 3 of those I didn't volunteer for, 1 of them I did. So, but the best part about that though is that it is really important because it increases our presence. A lot of people just group us in with either, you know, oh, we're over by Minnesota. And with a lot of historical societies in Wisconsin, everything's always on the other side of the state. So I found it at least rewarding because I think I get to actually put our name out there and put Polk County's name out there, just to encourage people to actually come visit the county, not just our museum. So it gets recognition out there, and I think it gets people to actually start thinking about, oh yeah, there's another side of the state. So last one, I'm not going to read through all this, but if I ever have to redo my resume, I think this will take about 3 pages. So this is just a list of a very short list of all of the things I do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. It's a lot, but I am incredibly excited about all of the work that I do. I'm excited that I get to talk with kids one day, and then the next day I get to go give presentations like this and talk about how great they are. I also am really excited that I get to work with historical objects on a daily basis, right? Being, you know, the former Indiana Jones kid, I get to work in the museum where all the things get to belong, right? But, you know, that's just a minor list of everything that I do. And I hope that I get to continue doing this, and I hope that I get to continue asking you all for money. So that's my last slide here. My main ask for this, for 2026, we're asking for $55,000 to support projects and things that the museum would like to complete. So like I mentioned, we have education boxes. I created 4 of them that are very specific to Polk County's history, but align with Wisconsin education standards. So teachers can use that to market that to their principals so they can get it. But the problem is disseminating them. I can drive all the way around Polk County, but do I have the time? Probably not. Funding for things just like postage and stuff like that to get them to different parts of the county and back, because a lot of schools don't have the funding to obviously ship, you know, heavy boxes back and forth too. to continue to create semi-permanent and rotating exhibits around Polk County. So, I had an idea for this building. Nobody has to agree with it, but something about, the government center's history and how it's connected to the old courthouse and all that jazz. But just an idea. Create and maintain rotating exhibits in the museum building itself, just to, again, increase visitor traffic and engagement. I want to create research and develop online tours throughout Polk County. Not everybody's going to want to come up to Balsam Lake necessarily, but if they go, oh, well, there's a cool spot in Osceola, or there's a cool spot over in Nye, there's a bison bones pit that's found over there. So something like that people can just drive around to. And again, it gets people visiting all of the county and not just the museum. Continued boxes. I need boxes for storage solutions. And continue digitizing art materials after our intern is gone, so throughout the winter. And then I also want to maintain or increase the number of events throughout the year, but especially our speakers starting to run dry in this area. So this would be to help pay for speakers who require a fee, especially people that, are from halfway across the state and they need a hotel, they need, all that kind of stuff. I think that's it. Yeah. If you have any questions or if anybody wants more books, there's more.
Good.
All good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kinship. Next.
All right. Well, hello, my name is Lisa Thanig. Thank you for letting me attend this morning's meeting. I am a part of Kinship of Polk County. Kinship is a nonprofit youth mentoring organization, which I believe most of you are all familiar with. We have two programs. We do a school mentoring program, so we work with all the schools in Polk County where we match high school students primarily with elementary and intermediate age students. They meet once per week during the school day throughout the school year. And then we also have kind of the girth of our program is our community-based program where we match outside adults with kids who need extra support. So that's kind of our program in a nutshell. Our mission is to work to improve the quality of a child's life by establishing a relationship with a caring volunteer for the purpose of stability, support, friendship, and community. Like I said, we serve youth ages 5 to 18 throughout the county. 86% of our community-based youth live either in single-parent homes or with someone other than a parent. Most likely they've experienced some sort of trauma or they may have a mental health barrier, or sometimes they have both. Their parents might be struggling with addiction. They might be incarcerated or have mental health struggles themselves. There might be a large number of adolescents in the home. They may be suffering from poverty. They might need welfare dependence, maybe a low level of education. And then, the youth that we serve, they're at risk of delinquency, substance abuse, mental health barriers, really including anxiety and depression. We're seeing a lot of that now. Suicide risk, teen pregnancy, and then also not completing high school, so dropping out early. So what's our impact? We partner with all 8 school districts in Polk County. That allows us to reach out to more families and kids in the community. It's great to have these partnerships. We work in prevention, so there's huge benefits to intervening early to mitigate barriers caused by trauma and stress, and those are critical to youth success, really. If we can get in there early and mitigate these barriers, then more likely our youth are going to have greater success as they grow into adults. The youth that we serve are part of a network beyond family. They're less likely to internalize stress if they have outside support. They have reduced feelings of loneliness, depression, anxiety, and overall they have a better well-being. Our kinship mentors are really great. They create just a trusting relationship. They help youth build problem-solving skills. They promote a sense of purpose in our youth, and they show youth really what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like, and that's really, really important, especially in the age of social media. A lot of our youth are on their devices for hours and hours a day. So then our mentors, they support and nurture healthy development. They encourage positive life choices. They build self-confidence, and then they also introduce our youth to new experiences, which is lovely. I think the longevity of our staff says a lot about our program. Carolee Tollickson is our program manager. She's been with Kinship for 25 years. I can't believe it. Amy Danielson, she is a program coordinator. She's been with Kinship for 24 years. I've been with Kinship for 15 years. And then we also have Shara Anderson. She is our newest employee. She came on 4 years ago. We just really see how valuable the program is. We have kids who are growing up next to the kids that we're serving. And so we really see the need, and then we also see the impact that we are making. So why does mentoring matter? Mentored youth are 55% more likely to be enrolled in higher education after they graduate high school. Students who meet regularly with their mentors are 52% less likely than their peers to skip a day of school. Mentored youth are 46% less likely than their peers to start using drugs and 27% less likely to start drinking. We know that's a big deal here in Polk County. 58% of our mentored youth say that their mentor has supported their mental health, also a big deal right now. And then 74% of our mentors say that, 74% of our youth say that their mentor contributed significantly to their success later in life. Mentoring can really lead to decreased crime rates, decrease in substance abuse and other negative behaviors, and this really translates to a significant cost savings for our communities and to our taxpayers. Mentored youth are 92% more likely to volunteer regularly in their communities. And then the most conservative study that I found on mentoring estimates a $3 to 1 return on investment, or a $2.72 for every dollar invested in mentoring programs. So that's huge. We've been really, really grateful for our partnership. We were established in 1980, and we've received funding from you every year since, and we are grateful for that. We continue to need it. Your funding has provided us so many great things. We're able to serve more than 350 youth each year because of your funding. Last year in 2024, we served 389 unduplicated youth. So that just means that some of our youth might be served in both the school districts, and then they're also served in community. So we only count them as one youth. So that 390 or 389 unduplicated youth, that's 90 more youth than in 2020 and 20 more youth than in 2023. So our program is growing. The demand for our services is really up. So you support our partnerships with all 8 of the school districts in the county. You've helped to provide 9,358 hours to mentoring just in 2024, which is awesome. We host at least 10 group activities per year. Just last week we did the Amazing Race. I don't know if you've seen the television show on TV, but we worked with the St. Croix Falls community and brought in a bunch of businesses who put on some really fun games and activities for all of our matches. And then they had to race around and get everything done and then meet back. And then we also always provide some sort of a meal for everybody. So whether it's lunch or dinner. Next week, we're heading to Wild Mountain. We try to do all of these activities at no cost or very low cost for our mentors and our kids. And so that's where your funding comes in, and it's important in helping, kind of build that community feel as well. Because when our mentors and kids are getting together, some of these kids in the program, they feel valued, they feel like they belong somewhere, and then they're meeting friends who are also in the program, which is really, really cool to see. You also help train our mentors. So we do one formal training per year with our mentors, and then we just offer resources and other things throughout the year as well. We also do 6 to 8 small group mentor meetings throughout the county throughout the year. This just brings all of our mentors together so that they can talk about all the things that are going great and maybe some of the things that are not going so great. And then from there, we take that back to the office and talk about, okay, what is the need? What do our mentors need? Where do they need to be trained most? The last few years, it's been social media, mental health, depression, anxiety. So we usually bring in a professional speaker to talk on that and then to talk through and answer questions that our mentors might have. So also there's a huge shortage of mental health professionals just throughout the United States and especially in Wisconsin. A lot of this is due just to the increasing demand, particularly among our young people, and then also just the lack of funding or the limited funding. So essentially you're helping really to fill this gap because you're providing us with funding so that we can train our mentors. And then when our mentors are provided that education that's focused on mental health or whatever the needs are that we're seeing of our youth, they're better equipped to guide our kiddos through those everyday struggles, such as it might be as easy as sibling conflict, or it might be they're getting bullied on the bus, their perceptions of self-worth, peer pressure, and then teaching them positive coping strategies. All of this really just increases youth resiliency and it leads to more positive outcomes as youth grow into adults. So according to Mentor, which is a website online where they collect lots of information throughout the United States on mentoring programs, the average cost per youth served across programs annually is $1,695. In 2024, Kinship's average annual cost per youth was around $1,300 for the community-based youth, and then around $173 for each school-based youth that we served. So according to Mentor, also more than 80% of adults support government investment in mentoring, and more than 2/3 are already mentoring or willing to consider it. Last year, 18% of our funding came from Polk County. We also receive financial support from grants, individual donations from businesses. We reach out for sponsorships, and then we do receive some school funding, and then we also do an annual fundraiser. Your support really allows us to focus more on program and then spend less time on fundraising. Fundraising is very time consuming and can be costly to organizations. We did a time study last year on our annual Luau fundraiser, maybe which you might be familiar with. And our staff, we estimated that we spent about 432 hours planning, prepping, and then implementing the fundraiser. This event raises a considerable amount of funding for us, and it's a huge celebration in our community. But our resources and our staff time would not allow us to do more than one of those per year. So if our funding was cut anywhere, it's going to be really difficult to make up, a large amount of funding just because we don't have the resources. And then combining, our resources across sectors and agencies and family-centered organizations is really critical to improving just the community that we live in. Many of the youth stay right here in the county after they graduate or they go to college and they come back. And so it's really important that we invest in them because it's just going to make our community a better place to be. When they're successful as adults, then we're more successful as a community. Like I said, the demand for mentoring remains high. We currently have 14 youth waiting in our community-based program, primarily boys. A lot of boys waiting in the Amory area, and then we have a lot of boys actually waiting in this area, Balsam Lake, Centuria, Milltown. So this is my plug for mentors. If anyone is ever interested in just getting together with one of us, just to kind of talk through what does it really mean to be a mentor, what is my role, we're more than happy to meet with you over coffee. We can meet here at the county or whatever to just talk through things. We're not at all pushy. We want to make sure that you are ready to mentor because once you make a match, we're hoping for longevity in that match. We're asking for a year-long commitment. It's a lot, so we just really want to make sure that people are ready. And then the majority of the time, our mentors stay on with the kiddos until they graduate or far, far after. As if you've talked to Shabana, she was in our program years ago, and she's still very connected with her mentors, which is really, really cool. Our expenses are increasing as everybody knows the cost of living has really, really gone up. It affects businesses, it affects nonprofits, for-profits, simple things like printing, postage, like you mentioned. We all know how much it costs to mail a letter these days. And we still try to do a lot through that. Our staff members use their own vehicles to drive all over the county to meet with potential mentors and to go to the school districts and to meet with families who are interested in joining the program. And so we do have to pay them mileage. Mileage rates have gone up. We have activity expenses. That has gone up. Our fundraising expenses, including our venue, food, and the staff time, that has gone up. And then it's really important, as you know, to keep your employees. So employee retention and keeping up with the cost of living and inflation is important. So again, I just want to say that we're really grateful for your financial support, and we're asking again for 2026 for $40,000. And that'll help cover everything I talked about, our program stuff, recruiting mentors, matching our kiddos, maintaining and supporting our current matches, and then helping to cover all the extras that we put on for all of our matches. I have a handout I'm going to give you. The first page is just some of our waiting boys. And then the second and third page is just kind of some fun stories about things that are happening between some of our matches. And then on the last page, there's just pictures of a lot of our school matches that we closed out or ended at the end of the school year. So with that, I don't know if anyone has any questions for me. Sure.
So most of the kids that are in the program, do they stay from the time that they get in and all the way through, say, through high school?
That's our hope. So we ask mentors to commit to 1 year. We have regular contact with them monthly or bi-monthly. And then at the end of the year, we assess, does the family want to continue and does the mentor want to continue? If so, then they will. Right now, the average length of our community-based matches is around 4 years. So obviously, it's our hope that they carry all the way through graduation or until they turn 18.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
West Cap.
Good morning. My name is Tim Mather. I'm the executive director of WestCap. I was here in June at your full board meeting. I'm recycling my presentation. Apologize for that. WestCap, we're located in Glenwood City. We're a community action agency. We've been in business since 1966. We serve 7 counties, among them Polk County. A little bit of history here real quick. As I mentioned at the last full board meeting, WestCap and community action agencies like WestCap were formed as a byproduct of President Johnson's war on poverty in 1964. We were formed in 1966, and you can see here on the slide, there's a Polk County resolution adopting WestCap as their community action agency in 1968. We serve 7 counties in Northwest Wisconsin. There are 16 community action agencies in the state of Wisconsin, just like us. There are 1,000 community action agencies across the United States, just like us. So every county in the United States is covered by a community action agency. And when I say just like us, we operate very similarly, not exactly the same, operate many of the same programs, not all the same programs. But the thing that identifies community action agencies as community action agencies is Community Services Block Grant. Next slide, please. Community Services Block Grant is a relatively discretionary pot of money for community action agencies to use to operate their programs. So WestCap, for example, we operate about 10 programs. Each one of those programs is highly prescribed. The amount of money we get to operate those programs is, just enough to cover things, maybe, often not. So we get some community services block grants, money to help kind of glue the agency all together. Our agency operating budget is about $18 million a year, and we get about $400,000 in community services block grant money. So it's not a lot of money, but it does help us cover some gaps. And it is part of the reason why I'm here today is our ask is $4,000 from your committee here. And that is to help support the programs that we provide to Polk County. And I want to say thank you to your service to the board. I served on the Dunn County Board for a couple terms, and I also served on this committee at Dunn County and received the requests from outside agencies. So I can appreciate tight budgets and tough decisions. So thank you for your efforts in this area and allowing us to present to you this morning. Next slide. Our agency is, as I mentioned, we cover 7 counties in Northwest Wisconsin. And one of the things that CSBG funding identifies that WestCap does is defines our board of directors. 7 counties, we have 3 representatives from each county on our board. 1 representative would be from the community. 1 representative would be a low-income person, so typically one of our clients. And then 1 of the representatives is from the county board. So we have 21 people on our board. So a relatively broad spectrum of representation defining what WestCap does. Next slide. WestCap totally for our 7 counties served, actually a little caveat to the 7 counties. 7 counties technically is what we serve. 7 counties have adopted WestCap as their community action agency. We do branch out into Washburn and Burnett County for 3 programs, and that is a byproduct of Indian Head Community Action Agency losing the contract for those 3 programs. So we do mingle into Burnett and Washburn County a little bit. But overall, we served in 2024, 40,000 people and 18,000 households. Our largest program from a touch point standpoint is our food access and resource and energy assistance and then housing assistance. And I'll touch on these here real quickly. Food access to Polk County in 2024, we provide services through USDA federally funded programs, 3 of them. The Emergency Food Assistance Program, which is called TFAP. That's been in the news recently, a lot of cuts there. The Community Supplemental Food Program, which is called CSFP, that serves elderly folks. And we deliver meals or deliver boxes of food to elderly folks here in Polk County and our other 6 counties. And then we have the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, another USDA funded program. And that basically provides a small voucher for senior citizens to go to farmers markets and buy local produce. So in total, we served 2,167 individuals in Polk County, and the value of those services in Polk County was $253,000. Next slide. Housing services to Polk County. What WestCap does, among many of the things that we do, is we develop affordable housing. As I mentioned to the full board, we do that through a process, low-income housing tax credit process. It's referred to as LIHTC, and it is administered through the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, or WEDA, down in Madison. It's a very competitive process. We hire a private developer. We compete against other agencies like ourselves for other projects across the state of Wisconsin. And we are fortunate that typically we get awarded 1 or 2 projects a year. In the last probably 8 years, we've developed about 600 units across our service territory. In Polk County, we developed 24 units up in St. Croix County, and then we have 8 units down in Clayton. Another program that we operate in Polk County is Housing Stability Services. We provide coaching to people that either their housing is unstable or they are facing homelessness. And we, again, provide coaching for that. We do landlord mediation. So we'll reach out to a landlord who may be evicting a client and just try to, talk it through with them. Sometimes clients aren't the best at negotiating with their landlord. So we help with that. And we also operate three HUD-funded programs for homeless intervention in Polk County. We've got rapid rehousing and permanent supportive rehousing, and we've got tenant-based housing assistance. We also administer Section 8 housing choice vouchers in Polk County, and those are also WIDA vouchers. We served in 2024 in Polk County, we served 171 households and for housing related needs, and the value of those services was $710,000. Next slide. Energy assistance to Polk County. Up until, well, about 3 years ago, Polk County administered their own energy assistance here on site. And then they quit doing that. WestCap took that contract over. So we've been doing it now for probably 2 or 3 years for Polk County. And energy assistance, typically it's a one-time benefit of about $300 to $500. That benefit gets paid directly to a utility company to help offset the utility costs for that household, that low-income household. It doesn't cover all their utility costs. It just helps make it more affordable for them. And again, those funds are paid directly to the local utility, whether it's Wisconsin Electric or it could be a local community cooperative. So the value of those services to Polk County, $900,000. Those were payments made directly to Polk County utilities. And then it was 2,766 households. Next slide. Home weatherization services in Polk County. One of the byproducts of energy assistance is an opportunity to have their home weatherized by WestCap. Weatherization means that we go in, we do an energy audit on the house. Very scientific. We depressurize the home. We measure the airflow leaking into the house. Gives us a really good idea how tight the envelope is. We use infrared thermology to identify compromises in the building envelope. And then we determine whether or not we can help that client make their house more energy efficient. So we weatherize about 300 homes per year in our 7 counties. We did 128 houses in Polk County last year. And the average energy savings once WestCap has weatherized the house is about $500 per year. So $500 less per year to keep their house heated. So we're essentially doubling that energy assistance benefit. Ideally, if we could weatherize all the houses, there'd be less need for energy assistance. That's the theory behind it. We also provide emergency responses to no heat. That's part of energy assistance. People that are on energy assistance, if they find themselves with no heat from October 1st to May 15th, they call WestCap. We dispatch a contractors out there within 24 hours. And hopefully they can make a repair on site, or we can go back, make a repair or a replacement of the heating system, the furnace. We provided 56 first responses to no heat last year. And then the direct value of the weatherization services to those 128 homes in Polk County was $330,000. And again, the average energy savings is about $500 per. Next slide, please. And then lastly, programs that we operate here in Polk County, skills and literacy. That's a one-person show at WestCap. We have one person that administers that program, does an amazing job with it. In Polk County, last year we served 33 individuals. The value of the services, $29,000. And I have a story here. It's a great example of what our skills and literacy program does in counties. So I'll just read it to you. We had an Osceola resident worked as a certified nursing assistant for the Osceola Medical Center, 29 hours a week. She earned $20 an hour with no benefits. Her annual income was $30,000 a year. She enrolled in our nursing skills program in 2023. And WestCap helped by paying her tuition and fees, reimbursed her for some travel, so, helped her with some gas cards. And then if they have children, we can help with a little bit of daycare so they can go to school. She graduated as a registered nurse from Northwood Tech with an associate degree of nursing last December. And she was promoted to a registered nurse at Osceola Medical Center on March 12th this year. She now works 36 hours a week at almost $42 an hour, has access to benefits, and earns $78,000 a year. So that's a program that I like to promote because it's a little bit of help, a little bit of a nudge. It facilitates a person to get from point A to point B and become successful and not reliant on any of our programs. So total, next slide, total for 2024 in Polk County, we provided $2,850,000 in services to Polk County. We served 4,800 individuals in just over 2,300 households. So about 10% of your individuals and about 12% of your households are touched by WestCap every year and in 2024. Any questions? And we make our request, we requested $4,000. Really, it's just to help support the programs that we operate in your county. We make this request to all of our counties. At an agency like ours, we have $18 million budget annually, but most of that money is federal or it's federal funds passed through the state. It's highly prescribed. We can't go left or right with it, and so we typically find ourselves operating at a deficit for most of the programs that we operate. And your $4,000 goes to help support our operation. So any questions?
Huh.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, West Central Regional Planning Commission.
Morning. Have a handout here to get started. Thanks for your time this morning. I'm gonna close this out here. These presentations. Talk a little bit more about what I'm handing out here in the course of the presentation. Right. Does this work? I guess. Find out. All right. Was working for a moment. There we go. All right. Good morning again. I'm Scott Allen. I'm the Executive Director for West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. I'll do a quick overview of what we are, kind of who we are, what we do. There are 9 regional planning commissions in the state of Wisconsin, and they were crafted through state statute went all the way back to the late 50s and 60s into the 70s, and we were kind of right in the middle of that. They were crafted to handle these types of kind of services at a regional level. So again, community planning, demographics, economic development, grants, mapping, natural resources planning, public administration, transportation. So again, here's a map of those 9. We are again West Central Regional Planning. You can see there 7 counties are highlighted there. There's different 7 counties and what Tim administers through WestCap, but there's quite a bit of overlap. Rather than Pierce and Pepin, in that case, we include Eau Claire and Clark. So our offices are in Eau Claire, so kind of centrally located in that regard. And again, as a 7-county organization, we are governed by a 21-member commission. So doing that math, it's 3 per county. Polk County itself provides 3 of those representatives as commissioners. And you follow a very kind of one of the more traditional methods, which is 2 county board supervisors And the third member is a citizen member, typically somebody related to the economic development kind of field, and that's exactly how you have it stated as well. So great to see Supervisor Karpinski here, and one of more recent past commissioners is here as well. So Supervisor Hall as well. And then Supervisor Kelly is also one of your commissioners, and she is the designated representative for Polk County on the 7-member executive committee. And then it's rounded out by your Economic Development Corporation Director, Terry Howard. So again, that's the balance here. It's a 2-year appointment, and there are reappointments for all 7 counties on those even numbered years. So just had this updated last year, and again, be doing the same next year. And it follows the kind of concurrent with the spring election cycle every even numbered year. Here's an organizational chart. Again, it's our staff members. Both me, or 3 of us, me, Aaron, who's our office manager, and Kim, our finance manager, kind of make up the administrative staff. And then we have 9 planners, or excuse me, 6 planners. Yeah, 9 planners plus myself technically as a planner, but 9 planning staff kind of highlighted in blue. And then 3 highlighted in green there serving in our regional business fund, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Again, kind of our basic goal is to assist units of government in planning for all those different kind of not just structural needs, but kind of planning needs in a general sense, physical, social, and economic development throughout the region, and typically on a county by county basis. So again, we serve as that coordinating organization between federal and state agencies and the local governments. We assist units of government working on those issues that occur at a more regional level. And then we provide technical assistance to individual units of government. Again, many times at the county level, but then at each of those municipal levels as well. Some of the 4 basic services kind of boil it down to these general areas: economic development, transportation, community development, and then kind of catch all the conservation mapping. Starting with economic development, transportation, this is just a list of some of the types of services we provide under economic development. That you can see their county economic and population profiles. And so that's what we update each year for each of the 7 counties. And that's what I just handed out to you here just moments ago. Transportation as well. We do a lot of planning related to that. I'll talk a little bit more about, for example, our safe routes to school plans. We work with school districts as well as just, municipalities, including villages, towns, and the county itself. And I'll talk a little bit more about pedestrian bicycle facilities planning we're doing here in Polk County as we speak. Again, kind of community development's that catch-all for kind of your traditional kind of planning services that you might be familiar with. Land use planning. We do grant writing and administration. Do TIF plans, assist with kind of housing studies, outdoor recreation plans, and then conservation mapping. We're branching out more into assisting with water quality planning and providing a lot of mapping services as well. Specific to Polk County, these are the kind of list of, not entirely inclusive of literally everything, but kind of the highlights that we've been participating in Polk County with over the last year to year and a half. Kind of jumping down here, again, I mentioned preparing those annual county-specific economic profiles. We assisted specifically with some grant applications that then rolled into specific projects. We completed a safe routes to school plan, as I mentioned just a bit ago, for the village of Frederick and the Frederick School District combined, so kind of a shared approach there. And then assisted with a bike rack audit for the Osceola School District. So assisting them with kind of reviewing their facilities related to kind of walking and biking related to their schools. So again, with Safe Routes to School, what that really helps with is trying to assist with the actual planning for allowing kids to do more of that walking and biking that traditionally a lot of us kind of grew up doing, at least, kind of elementary school level. And as things have progressed into this modern age, have kind of drifted away from that. So assisting schools and villages municipalities with kind of bringing back some more opportunities for kids to access their schools rather than just with buses or with, parents driving them. We helped you update the Polk County Farmland Preservation Plan just last October. That was adopted by the county board. And we are kind of helping frame up the Polk County Hazard Mitigation Plan as we speak. And then I'll talk a little bit more here momentarily about the bicycle and pedestrian plan. And we're right in the middle of that work. Again, also as we speak, we have one of our senior planners working on that this week, and actually will be back up here on Friday to do some field work related to that. I want to highlight a little bit with the Regional Business Fund, kind of do a whole presentation just on that if you'd like, but we try to do that as well. Every year we come back to each of the county boards and give an annual presentation, much like this, but can go into a little bit more detail with Regional Business Fund. And so we'll be back here at a subsequent meeting, hopefully sometime soon. But through the Regional Business Fund, last year alone, we loaned over $600,000 to 8 businesses. And the math worked out to create or retain over 100 jobs, 113 more specifically, and leveraged over $5.25 million in private funding. So that's kind of how our scaling worked out with some of those loans. Specifically called out here is the Grove Child Care Center. You might be familiar with that. Just heard that they just opened the doors last week. So finally in business to assist, primarily focused on the Milltown Industrial Park. So this is in Milltown. And if you look at the Milltown Industrial Park, this is kind of their focus. They even won an award from the Polk County EDC for this effort. So really reaching out to help that workforce, not just in Milltown, but specific to the industrial park, and to help with the growing workforce in that area. They can offer care for up to 125 children. So again, proud to be just one of the partners to assist with the financing related to that specific project that's just opening its doors. I talked a little bit about the bicycle and pedestrian plan, or bike and ped plan for short. So we just wrapped up the public survey related to that and putting together those results. We also, through this kind of public survey and public outreach, provided an online mapping tool so you can kind of see some potential routes for that. And again, it's always important to mention that, bike routes don't necessarily mean physical infrastructure. It could just be a assigned route, a preferred pathway utilizing existing infrastructure. So kind of just show the entirety of the county here, but happy to share some links so you can look through some of this yourself. But we're, again, right in the middle of this. Look to have this wrapped up here a little bit later this year. Specific to our finances, I always like to say we're a quasi-governmental agency, and I'll talk a little bit more here in a moment about how the fact that we do have that levying authority through state statute. Each of the regional planning commissions have that, and that's where our financing that we're requesting here today is coming through, and the process again continues as you see it here each year with each of the 7 counties. So our budget for this year is $1.86 billion. It's probably hard to see this pie chart a little bit, but I'll kind of talk through it just real briefly. Specifically, that kind of lower left purple wedge is about 36%. Our largest amount of our finances come through, our revenues come through our other contractual revenue, we call it, or just in general contracts and agreements. So for example, we assisted with getting some grant funding for the Polk County Bike and Ped Plan. There's some additional assistance provided through the county for that. So that's, kind of contributes to some of that other contractual revenue. So same with Safe Routes to Schools plan, we get grant funding, but it's also matched through some component either from the school district or through other funds. That too gets compiled into that wedge of the pie. In terms of the levy itself, historically, we've ranged anywhere from 15 to 20%. For this year, it's about 16. And that is the, excuse me, the top left, kind of the 10 o'clock to noon position, green wedge, shows about 16%. And that's the part of the financing and funding that we're looking at here today. And so just historically, just kind of last year, this year, next year, laying that out, just showing the progression here. So for 2026, we're looking at just over $41,000. It's about $1,600 increase over last year, or the current year, I should say, and just over 4% increase. So on average, what the commission looks at every March, they meet, and again, all 7 counties are represented. They meet and set the levy amount that they're then moving forward with, requesting those funds from each of the counties. They looked at a 3% overall increase over the current year. So from 2025 to 2026, that matches what was done the previous year, is a 3% overall. So again, as that then kind of per county averages out, it's not exactly 3% each county, but 3% on the total. So for Polk County, it's 4%. For some others, it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower for others as well. So just in general, county service charges is kind of what we call it, are used to provide that local match. As I mentioned, you'd assist with some of these grant funded projects. So essentially it helps kind of buy down the overall cost of these projects to make them a little bit more competitive and affordable. And they provide that local match to those federal, state, and foundation grants for regional planning, community development, economic development, all those types of general areas of projects I mentioned earlier. And again, they help provide that technical assistance to counties, local governments within the region as well. So it's kind of I say catch-all, but it's funding that we use then, again, not just to match these other grants, but to assist with kind of one-off requests for information and materials as well. So for example, our annual economic profiles, that's where some of that funding is allocated for those types of things. Won't get into this too greatly, but again, just general benefits of regional planning. We do have direct public and fiscal accountability to local governments. Here we are today. We do provide an opportunity to partner and leverage funds. Again, mentioned that through Regional Business Fund, how we are successful in doing that, in particular in Polk County last year. We provide a staff professionals with technical and programmatic expertise. Again, there are 15 of us in total, 9 are planners. We cover those rural areas to fill in a gap in planning. Can't be met by small governmental units. Again, the Safe Routes to School plan, for example, we're talking about the village of Frederick and the Frederick School District don't necessarily have the same kind of on staff expertise. And then we also act as repositories for and also developers of demographic, other types of information, again, like those economic profiles. So I'll close with it there. And again, thank you for your time and partnership over the last almost 55 years now. So with that, I'll see if there are any questions. Good. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Nothing regarding investments.
Thank you, Chair Arcand. I think I'm actually on rebatting for the next 5 rounds here. So here I'm forgetting to do my job. Here.
Thank you.
I'm going to just provide a brief investment report today. We've got a bit over $34 million in investable assets to the general fund. Since the last time we met, we've become more liquid Right now, the yield curve is such so that unless you're willing to go 10 years out, which our financial policy really doesn't allow us to do, it just makes sense to keep money in short-term instruments. So that's what we're doing. As we see that situation change, the investment committee allows us the flexibility to start buying more fixed instrument CDs and securities from such as T-bills. If you look at your graph, in the blue, about 2/3 of the fixed assets are T-bills and the other third is CDs. Right now, the effective rate for the entire portfolio is over 4%, so it's not doing too poorly. And we keep watching what's happening with the rate environment. That's what I've got for you. If you've got any questions, now would be the time to raise them on that one. All right, we'll go to the next slide, please. So related to this, each year about this time, at least since I've been in this role, we've needed to reimburse the general fund from the health because our healthcare expenses have run hotter than we anticipated. Over the last couple of years, what we've done, rather than sell an instrument and then pay some fees and then rebuy with the general fund, we've assigned a treasury holding, assigned it to the general fund from the health fund. Right now, at this point in time, general fund's owed about $1.8 million from the health fund. What we're going to do is we're going to move 3 treasury bills with a par value of about $2.5 million to the general fund real soon. At that point, the health fund balance will be about $1.8 million. So this is a trajectory we don't like. In a second, we'll be talking about the checks that the county writes, and you'll see the number one position on that's Health Partners. So our cost of keeping our employees healthy with the medicine and services they need is expensive. It keeps going up. That's what I got on the health fund transfer. Any questions?
We break down that bill, averaging out, so we know like how much it costs per employee that we have, not specifically a name, but if we have 200 and some employees, what that cost is and what the market rate is.
We have in fact, we're meeting with our consultants this afternoon to talk about what right now 26 is looking like for them. And so they will give us a per plan member expense relative to 25, and they can show us where we are against the market. And I'd be happy to report back on that general government committee next month.
Yes,
That would be helpful.
we get that information in detail down to high claimants, claimants between $75,000 to $200,000 for stop limit, what's above that stop limit, and what our risk is going forward and how that looks in the future. So, and what RX ties through that. So big decision to make on things. Yeah.
I think perhaps the last meeting, I suggested that it's really important for administration to look at alternatives to what we're doing right now because it's painful. And so we're working with J Counter / Alera Group to identify some options to how we're doing our insurance. And we may talk a little bit more about that yet today. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide, Claire. Now, this is microscopic. I apologize, but this is the list of all the payments we've made over the last quarter in excess of 75,000. Just to give you kind of running tally of how things are looking. Health Partners, #1 position. Wisconsin ETF, #2 position. That's the pension plan. Clam Falls Dam. We got insurance-related expense of $350 or so. We've got a number of schools we just pass through money to. I think the school district would be in that sort of category. No surprises here for us. If you see anything that's a surprise to you or you'd like to ask me, we can dig into it.
I have a question on the Miller Bradford compact loader for the recycling center.
Mhm.
I think last year we approved $75,000 for that piece of equipment. Can you explain why we're 130% over budget on that?
My recollection is the bids came in a lot higher than we anticipated. We can get some, pick up the service and just look up the ticket real quick.
Well, I think the issue is originally it was proposed as a skid steer loader and we bought a wheel loader. Two distinctly different pieces of equipment.
I was looking at originally, it was scheduled for a wheel loader. The 75 might not do that. I have to look at CIP to see if that was later. Which one they put forward, I'd have to look at that, yeah. Loader, part of that was part of the compact loader was part of the, recycling center project as part of that going through there, so. Might be different from the original CIP on that, because it was part of the, recycling center project. Just to get a machine that had more visibility, that was inside that facility working.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
We just approved 75,000, not 105.
And
And
the 75 might not include a trade-in value. The 75 would have been with trade-in value versus the 104 was without trade-in value. But I have to look at the.
yeah,
So,
and just the fact that we're buying equipment from 2 hours away versus there's 3 manufacturers within 5 miles, I think. No, we have to, I think we need to support local businesses for equipment purchases like that we can.
And that is in our policy, and we look at those for low bid and what's best for the county, and what's best for all the taxpayers on there, depending on where the bids come in on.
Those are the only comments I have, yes.
Would it be helpful if we pulled the information on that for you for next time?
I've got it already. I got the results originally.
All right. Any further questions on the payments? All right. So, long-term financing for capital project. You'll recall that for this budget year, we borrowed over $2 million for capital projects. The draft budget includes the same amount for 2026. And we're anticipating more or less steady state borrowing through 2029. We can do that and keep the levy where it is. Because we are paying off debt, we have additional capacity below that levy limit starting in 29. And if the board chose to, we could keep the levy where it is and borrow these additional amounts that you see in the small bullets. Keep the levy where it is. If we don't borrow the money, the levy drops. And if a project comes up where we need to borrow, we have to jack it again. So we've been trying to keep that as consistent over time as we can. The difference in the future, not 26, 27, or 28, will be that debt's paid down enough that we could look at different amounts.
That's our strategy, to keep that levy stable as we get further out on there and our borrowing capacity becomes greater. That's our opportunity then to look at what we want to do with the old jail and the type of stuff like that, but to keep our capital improvement projects moving along with a steady rate, not raising the levy, and keeping that stable is our borrowing plan, long-term funding.
Each year, the administrator reviews a list of additional funding requests from departments, and the administrator is reviewing those now. And there was a good collection of capital requests for 2026. So there's always plenty of projects.
There was a total of almost $6 million of extra funding requests, both operating and so whittling that down to what's keeping us stable.
Any questions about that? All right, I'm almost ready to sit down. One more slide. you'll indulge me. In your packet are annual reports from each of the departments reported up to the committee. The idea here is that these reports are to tell you the story of what the department is doing, what it did in 24, what it's planning to do in 25, and what it's projecting to do in 26. Gives you an idea of where these departments are going and what they may need, if anything, additionally. So this is your opportunity to communicate with each other or the administrator about things that you like or wish would change with these departments. Most of the information or much of the information in these reports will show up in the budget book, which we will, believe it or not, be handing out in September, not too far down the line. So that's what I've got on annual reports. If there's any specific questions of something that is in the pack, happy to try to answer them or forward the question on to the department head.
We're good.
Thank you, sir.
All right, discussion regarding whatever BOA is, Board of Adjustments.
I'll request like Jeremy get BOA for 35.
I don't have any other questions, but will this be published on
Minutes?
the minutes or the note or the
Yes.
agenda? Good point.
There's something we gotta do with this? Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding the 2026 general government fee schedule.
On the next to the last page of your packet are the fees associated with some of the departments that are governed by the General Government Committee. There's no changes when some of the departments, if they do have changes, they're coming from above. But the fee schedule that we would look to you for an endorsement on is on that second to the last page. Next month, you'll have an opportunity. All the fees will be rolled up into the master fee schedule, which we'll present on and ask you to forward to the full board for the August meeting. But for right now, we're just looking for an endorsement from the General Government Committee for the three departments that report up to it: County Clerk, Treasurer, and Corporation Counsel.
Motion to approve the recommended fee changes. Or send it to the board with the recommendation. So
For the recommendation.
For an endorsement, yeah.
Just for an endorsement of these, and then it'll be rolled up in the main one that'll go to the full board in August.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. All right, we got a discussion, possible action regarding the committee delegate negotiations. Upcoming. Talked about it in our last meeting. But I think we felt that we should take some formal action on it. Is that why it's up?
Correct.
Make a motion to appoint Russ Arcand as our
We'll second
new
that.
representative.
Tears first. Any further discussion?
Not required.
Not all's in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Maybe before we go into a closed session, maybe we should finish our agenda. How about the administrator's update?
Sure, just a couple of short things here. Sales tax in June was down 6% from 2024. We're still up 4% overall. From there, in HHS, Helen Swenson has met her education requirements for the health officer to maintain her level 3 status for that. Coming next August to this committee will be the library rates. With that, right now it's running off the current resolution 4820 set at 95%. Should the committee choose to recommend something else to the board, we'll just have to do another formal resolution on that. So to set that, the Clam Falls actuators are in. They are having an issue with them operating right now. We got the engineers working on that. If you could picture, the best way to describe the way these actuators work is a long cylinder that's shaped kind of like opening the jaws of a crescent wrench. You have the crescent wrench on its side and you move that, and every now and then, you know how it gets bound up a little bit in doing that? That's what they're doing right now. So we have to kind of move them up and down to get those gates to move. So the engineers are looking at that right now. So that's the best way to describe the issue. We have engineers from Canada and across the state and some dam experts working on that right now to see what the issue is on those. Last week, both the federal reconciliation bill was passed and the state budget was passed. So we're going through those. There's quite a bit of wins for the county in the state budget, first, both for transportation, conservation, saw some big increases. The reconciliation bill from the federal government, good news there that there was no taxes implemented on municipalities bonding, which would really hurt ourselves. One of the things that did happen in there is with the SNAP program and the Medicaid stuff. Wisconsin is one of 10 states that administers those programs at the state level and county level. And with the new eligibility requirements, we may see more staff sign for those, chasing down the new eligibility requirements. So we're keeping an eye on all those and it'll affect it. In the state budget also was not put in there was our ask for mental health crisis units, but they did put in $10 million for Rogers Behavioral Health to move into Chippewa Valley, which may help us in that whole overall thing. And also has put in there $10 million to open up, I'll get this wrong, it's considered a CAFU. It's a mental health crisis urgent care that you could apply for and open up your own facility, but it doesn't have funding for sustainability of that. So we're still monitoring all those on how they're going to affect our bottom line. The implementation of the SNAP program administration fee dropping 25% from the federal government goes into effect October 1st of 2026. So as we look at the program over the year, we can see how that's going to affect us. That's my update.
All right, how's our work plan looking? Schedule?
We'll probably just have to add WPPA for August.
Yeah. And how about subject matters for our next meeting?
I have the health fund update with the further questions. Did you want the budget info regarding that skid steer thing? Back
I don't, so I think it's a done deal now.
here if that was a yes or no. So I'll double check. And then we have the total fee schedules, the library stuff, the outside agencies part 2, and the WPP negotiations.
All right. Are we gonna go into a closed session for talk about patients?
Yes.
Someone get us there?
Make a motion, we go into closed session to review the contract negotiations.
Second.
All right, we're supposed to have a roll call vote, so.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We get a, or do you want these back or you?
Everything should be turned in.
We shouldn't keep some stuff off.
This seems to.
Yep.
All right, we're back in open session and
Make a motion to adjourn.
favor
Aye.
and adjourned at 10:43.